item 8, which is leisure and community. And the first item there is the Fareham Community Savers reallocation. Two councillors. Peter Davis here. No? Okay. All right. If he isn't, then Councillor Mrs. Hockley has asked if she can address us on this one. So if you'd like to come forward, Connie, and I'd ask Councillor Ms. Cowell if she would introduce it first.
Thank you, Chairman. As members can read from the report, despite significant effort, the Fareham Community Savers Management Board took the decision to end the Fareham Community Savers Initiative in March 2015. The Fareham Community Savers Initiative was set up to benefit those residents living in priority areas of Fareham, for example in Fareham North West, Fareham Park and Fareham South, Broadlaw Walk, as set out on page 5. The funds left in the initiative amounted to £12,938, and as you can see from the report on page 9, there was a legal agreement in place for the distribution of these monies. Of the three partners, Southern Co-op relinquished its claim on these monies, and therefore the sum of £12,938 would be equally divided between the other two parties, i.e. First Wessex Housing Association and Fareham Borough Council. Officers have been in discussion with First Wessex regarding their share of the funds to see if they would be willing to use these funds for the provision of youth services within the borough, and these discussions are still ongoing. I would therefore propose that our share of the funds be added to the Youth Activities Fund, which was set up at the Executive in January. This would enable organisations in the Fareham Park area to bid for these monies for continued open access youth activities in the area. I would ask members therefore to agree recommendation B as paper, but need to amend recommendation A to state that the Council's £6,469 share from the now defunct Community Savers Initiative be added to the Youth Activities Grant Fund for the provision of open access youth activities in the borough and is allocated in accordance with the agreed criteria. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mrs. Hockley.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I disagree with that recommendation. I don't think it will come with any surprise. I've got to say I'm very disappointed at the amended recommendation item A. So I wanted to respectfully, underlined respectfully, ask that you reconsider the wording. When we set up Fareham Community Savers, it was set up as stated in the report. It was to complement the work of the Fareham Park Steering Group. And all the work that's being undertaken by that group, we put a lot of money and effort into that area, and I want to ensure that that sustainability continues. One of the aims of the Fareham Park Steering Group was to ensure that whatever was set up was sustainable. Now, in the past, we've done work over the years, to my knowledge, over the past 20 years, in that area, and we've always said it's going to be sustainable. Well, it hasn't been. We've had bits and pieces that have been sustainable, but the majority has not. And I think we've let them down quite badly. So, sustainability is what I'm talking about. So the money that has been left in the pot, the 6,469, as far as I'm concerned, should go to Fareham North West, not just for open access for the whole of the borough. It needs to be spent in that area. The other money, I think, should be spent in the Broadlaw Walk area, because First Wessex put a lot of effort again into that area to try and make sure there was some community facilities, and I think that needs to be continued. And I know they've been having a rough time there as well, so the money would help them. So what I'm asking you to do is to ensure that half the £12,000, 900 whatever it is, half of it should go to Fareham North West, half of Fareham North West Wise Services or Fareham North West Community Association, and the other half should be used down in Broadlaw Walk. And I know what the officers are going to say. Everything has to go into the capital pot and then be fed out. I've always said that's smoke and mirrors. I think this money was meant to be spent in these two areas, and it should be allocated there. So I'm asking you please to change the recommendation. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just an observation, if I may. You're absolutely right, Councillor Mrs. Hockley, that what would normally happen is if there's a saving realised somewhere, it would go straight back into the general fund. But we're not proposing to do that. As you recall from a recent executive meeting, what we're doing is trying to pick up on some of the issues that there will be when the County Council withdraws funding for youth services in Fareham, and to be able to run a number of youth projects across the borough. So we've set up a £30,000 pot of money for that. And so what actually the recommendation before us is that we don't return this saving to our reserves. We actually do allocate it to youth. So if we agree that recommendation, I guess my advice would be that you get the Fareham North West youth people to apply to that fund for £6,469. And it has to go to youth, it doesn't just go into our general reserves. And as for the rest of it, the First Wessex money, of course we don't know whether we're going to be allowed to keep that. But again, if we are, that goes into the youth fund as well. And I'm sure we'll be able to encourage the Broad Law Walk Youth Project to apply for that sum as well. So, does anybody want to comment on this? No? Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in principle, yeah, I can see the argument of actually spending the money on the Fareham Park project. However, I also understand that the money wasn't originally assigned a ring fence for that area, and therefore to me it does seem to make sense to put it back into the totality of youth provision, and for any subsequent application for funding to be looked at in the round of all the youth provision we managed to provide across the borough. So I do support the recommendation as it now stands.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for invite?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just would echo your sentiments and totally agree with what your proposals were. I think that's a great way of doing things, and I think we'll end up in the right place anyway.
Yes, Councillor Isbell.
I know Councillor Mrs. Hockley is very passionate about the Fareham Park project, and so am I, and Councillor Davies, I know, spoke to yesterday. Connie, we will get there, it's just that we need to do things properly and correctly. Yes, I disagree slightly with Councillor Evans. The Community Savers initiative was set up for the Fareham Park project and the Broad Law Walk area. So therefore, if we can get the monies back into those two areas, that would be great. But doing, as I set out the recommendation, the North West Community Association can bid for that money and therefore put it towards youth activities in that area. It's just that we're being seen to be doing it correctly.
Thanks. So are the two recommendations agreed then? The first one as amended and the second one? Okay, thank you.